So as I mentioned, the webinar today, we're going to be talking about the coding wizard within Counselor. Some of this webinar does cover other areas in Counselor, the audiogram screen, Counselor Insight. So some of these areas you may already be familiar with, but we are going to kind of go over them very briefly as well as part of determining or putting in the information necessary for the coding wizard. Okay. So at any point you have questions, please let me know. Just go ahead and raise your hand or ask a question, and I'm very happy to incorporate it into the discussion. All right. So as you're probably well aware, this is the General Information tab within Counselor. This is where you first start with a new visit. And now, as you also may have seen, towards the bottom here is our coding area. So this is what I'm specifically talking about with the coding wizard. Right now, of course, this is blank, but in a few moments here, we'll get to see how this can automatically populate. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to click on the Counselor Insight tab. As I mentioned, we're not going to go into great detail on this today. We also do have the Masters series webinars on Counselor Insight itself. But suffice to say, the idea with this is to help really cut down report writing time and consolidate the effort you're doing. So instead of having to take notes on the patient and then later on go back and write your report, we want you to be able to start writing your report while you're working with the patient history. So let's just assume the patient has walked in, you're sitting, you're doing an interview with them, and they mention they've had a gradual decrease in hearing, as in both ears. So I'll go ahead and click there. That's going to add the statement to the top of the left column. This is the equivalent of basically jotting a note down, just instead of having to write something down. The right-hand column is a suggestion where Counselor is basically going to say, well, if you mention this, you probably want to say something in your professional report about the patient's concerns. The idea there is that as you're talking with the patient, you're going to continue to compile notes in the left-hand column and suggestions in the right-hand column. So I'm going to say the patient mentioned some vertigo. Let's say they also had a deformity of the ear. Let's also say they have some tinnitus. Okay, and what we're going to see here is that as I've been clicking on those, we've been adding each note to the top of the left-hand column. So if the patient later on changed their mind, you could of course just uncheck this and it would go away. At the same time, there's going to be recommendations and results and history along with this. So there'll be suggestions based on what you noted. Okay. So as I mentioned in the Counselor Insight tutorial, we go into more depth on this and how you can set this up. And I mean, basically, the short story on that is all this can be changed. The reason I bring this up in this webinar is that the coding wizard is going to use information that you entered into Counselor Insight to help you decide what codes to use. Okay. So you're sitting with the patient, you've taken their history, now you're ready to start testing. You'll want to click Export to Reports. They'll take all these suggestions and send them out to the appropriate areas in each report. This can be used for chart notes, for custom section, can be used all over. But what that really does, it locks it in so the coding wizard had something to base its recommendations off of. Okay. Now, to speed this process up a little bit, I've already gone in and created an audiogram. Now, this audiogram, of course, you can create directly in Counselor using any internet-able device. Of course, you can just click on the audiogram and create it on the fly. Or if you already have the data in NOAA, you can use our NOAA module to bring the data back and forth. Okay. Now, what's important here is that once you've entered your audiometric data, and this will include any subtests as well, Counselor will be looking at, for example, the SRTs and the ward rec and different areas of your testing, your reflex decay, to help you decide what billing codes to use. Okay, so we do encourage you to put all your audiometric data in these areas. It helps really kind of fill out that coding wizard portion. Okay, so you've done the patient history, you've done your testing, whether through NOAA or through Counselor, and now you're ready to see how the coding wizard works. So what I'm going to do is just continue back to the main screen. And then I'm going to click on the General Information tab. If you recall, that's where we were before. And towards the bottom of the page, once again, this currently has nothing in it. But what I'm going to do is just click on Auto Calculate Codes, Counselor will look at the information that was put into Counselor Insight, and it will look at the audiometric data. And based on that, now we have suggestions. So the diagnosis codes, you notice there's quite a lot of these. We cast a bit of a wide net. For example, like when I picked congenital abnormality of the ear, we basically show several codes that are consistent with that. So more than likely you would not use 4 codes for that one patient visit. So what you do is you, of course, just remove them. Some of the big advantages here are that, in particular for codes that you do not use very often, you don't have to go back to your code books and decide what this is. Counselor's going to attach these based off of what you entered during the case history. And then it's going to take the results of the test. For example, here it's giving sensory hearing loss, bilateral, unilateral, and we'll go ahead and just say bilateral. And then you can also decide what's the most important. The way that this is used personally in my office is that once we finish working with a patient, we will basically set these codes so that our office manager knows when it's time for her to bill. She just goes into Counselor, looks at what we have here, and that's what she uses on the HCFA. So in that case, we're not actually transferring super bills back and forth. It also gives us the flexibility that no matter where the chart is, she can still bill because we have the information included here. Okay. Now it's important to note that Counselor itself is not going to be doing the medical billing. You're most likely already aware of that. This is just for advice, just for a purpose for giving you advice. So of course you can agree, disagree with whatever you like. You also, if you realize there wasn't one on here, you could click Edit Codes and pick from our code set as well. Moving on to the next section, CPT codes. Of course, this is going to be looking at the actual tests that were performed. So because we had done air conduction, bone conduction, and speech, word rec, and TIMPs, it came with the 92557 and 92567. Okay. Now, and this is probably the most key part of this webinar, is PQRS coding. This is something that's obviously incredibly important for us to do, but can be a little confusing. Once you get it down, it's really not bad, but there are some ins and outs. So what Counselor's going to do is take the diagnosis codes, it's going to take the CPT codes, and the patient's age. All 3 of those things come together for the PQRS recommendations. So in this case, it's recommending 3. Audiology currently has 4 measures that are applicable. That may very likely change the first of the year, but all the rules within Counselor will be updated as they are updated for audiology. So the idea here is you can continue to use this system with changes in the PQRS structure. It'll automatically be updated in Counselor. Okay, so let's say this patient, we're talking about the acute chronic dizziness. I'm going to set the code there, and let's say I referred them for an otologic evaluation. Now let's say the medications, let's say I didn't document. I'll go ahead and check that one off. And same thing for congenital traumatic congenital deformity of the ear. Let's say once again we referred for an otologic evaluation. Okay, and now my PQRS codes are set. So I don't have to go back to my code book. I don't have to, research online. They're all ready to go. Okay. One feature that is linked with this overall coding wizard is our medications tab. Medications, of course, medications tab will let you record the patient's medication. So this isn't required in order to complete the coding wizard, but you are able to use this to serve as your tracking purpose. So in the medications code, if you say you did track, you can keep that within Counselor. Counselor will ask for the name of the medication, the frequency of use, the method of delivery, and the dosage, basically. So all 4 key components that are required to satisfy this PQRS request. Okay. You may be thinking this. The 4th PQRS code is also related to depression screenings. That also can be activated within Counselor. So that if you do depression screenings, it's basically a click of a button and we can make this appear for you as well. Okay. But obviously in this case, if, for example, chronic dizziness did not apply, that PQRS code would not be showing up. If you had not done a 92557, if you'd just done a screening, then none of the PQRS codes would show up because they are based off of, once again, the diagnosis and the billing codes. There have to be special combinations of them in order for the PQRS codes to be applicable. So we really want to take that work out of your hands and just make it nice and streamlined. All right. So that is my very quick, I apologize, I speak quickly, my quick dissertation on our coding wizard. I'm going to pause for a second here and see if there are any questions. Okay, one popped up asking if those are the only diagnosis codes that are available or if you can select from additional codes. Absolutely you can. You can do that for the diagnosis and the CPT codes, and you do that just by clicking on Edit Codes. That will bring up our full code list. So if for some reason something came up that wasn't in that list, you just click on Available Codes, and there they are. And if for some reason you saw codes that were not on this list you wanted to see, we're very happy to add those as well. But let's just say maybe there was a history of a perforation in a TM. Let's go ahead and add that. And let's go back to the top. And now it's added to the list. So once again, if I made a mistake there, of course, I could go ahead and delete that. Okay, another question popped up. Are these diagnosis and billing codes specific to this visit or to the patient in general? These codes are specific to this visit. So as you are entering information in the counselor insight about their history, as you enter audiometric data, that's all stored specifically for this visit. If the next visit, maybe you just did a 92557, all the codes would be based off of that visit. Kind of a offshoot of that question, medications are essentially handled in both ways. Medications are stored specific for this visit, but you also can see an ongoing tally. So if you saw the patient 3 times this year and you charted their medications each time, you could, in their patient administration screen, bring up basically a list over time that would show you all the differences. But most importantly, for this visit, all the codes are specific to this visit. Okay, another question was, if I change the patient history after I've auto-calculated the codes, will they update with the new information? Yes, absolutely they will. So if you realized maybe you talked with the patient more and something changed with their history, you could simply go back into Insight or if something changed with the results, maybe you need to add more, go back into the audiogram screen, add the speech, word rec, whatever it is, hit auto calculate codes again, and it will regenerate this information. Now it will save what you had selected before. So what you may find is that it's added new codes. So you want to review the entire list. We don't necessarily want to delete your work. We just want to add to it if there's something that applies. But absolutely, you can change things on the fly and then recalculate. Another question popped up. Oh, that's a very good question. Asking if the diagnosis and billing codes and PQRS codes could be displayed in the report itself, and that's a good question. So the way you would do that, you could set up a template for this, or you can do it on the fly. And what you'll be doing is you'll be using the placeholders, which you may have used elsewhere. And basically to do that, you would just click here, and it is under General. So we have our diagnosis codes. You could show the medications. You could show the full list of medications. That would include the dosing, frequency, use, and method of delivery. You also could show the PQRS codes as well. So in this case, let's say we want to show the billing codes. There we go. And maybe I'll put a quick header on that. Of course, I can't type. I apologize for that. There we go. This is kind of rough, but they'll give you the idea. And let's say diagnosis codes, and let's say the PQRS codes as well. So typically you would put some text around this for context, but I'm going to jump back to the main screen. And what we'll see here is that Counselor has grabbed that information and has now filled it in place of those placeholders. So this is becoming a much more common method for people to do, whether they do it in the results section. Some people will use the custom section to display that. Ultimately, the purpose of that is if someone came back and audited your reports, you would actually have all the coding information right on your report. Like I said, that would include your billing codes, your diagnosis codes, and your PQRS codes if you wished. That provides a much more succinct report. and then you can go back and you can justify, I did the 92557. You can see clearly on the same page that I completed all the components of the 92557. So it just makes things very, very clear. Even if you didn't do that, you still have all that data stored in Counselor. So if you went through that audit, like I said, the data will be there for you. So whether or not you display it in the report, but that is absolutely an option for you as well. Okay. Another question was, can I come back and change the codes later on? Is there any record of this? Yes. So any changes you make in Counselor, anytime you change something in Save, there is an audit trail, and that's what allows us to be HIPAA compliant. So if you had set codes and then maybe someone came back and changed them, you actually could review that later on. And the audit trail is located on the bottom of every page right here. So I'll show you the visit. So you can see my previous saves for this patient, and I could view what happened during that time. Okay, so this actually applies across the system. You can always view that audit trail. Like I said, that's very key as far as HIPAA compliance as well. Okay, so that's the last of the questions. I will stay on the line a little while longer if anybody has any additional questions, but I want to thank you very much for joining us. Please feel free to contact us offline anytime if we can be of assistance. Set up individual trainings for your clinics or individual providers or office manager staff. We're very happy to do so. Just a quick reminder, support for Counselor is always covered within the subscription, so you're never paying extra for that. And if you want to see our quick contact information at any time, you just click Contact Us at the top of the screen. That will give you our contact information, or you can click the live chat button during general business hours, 8 to 6 Central Time. And we're very happy to help you as well. So once again, thank you all very, very much for joining us. We had a great crowd today. Thank you for excellent questions, and I will stay on a bit longer and see if anyone else has any questions. Thank you.